So starting off with the first game, Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, and this certainly was a start. It at least attempted to be something new, though there's still much to be desired compared to what the franchise has done now. But alright, so first, Intelligent Systems, of course, obviously the sole developer of Fire Emblem. Of course, Intelligent Systems was founded by Toru Narihiro, and he was an employee of Nintendo, but he started his own thing, and they focused mainly in software development, kits and they focused on other similar development things like that. But ultimately, though, they helped develop some of the early NES games, and then the first original series called the Wars series started with Famicom Wars in 1988. It's a turn-based, simulation strategy game, where you can control your little army against a computer, and there's different objectives and other such things, and it was interesting, I guess, for that time. But ultimately, though, they wanted to make a new series in-house, and the new series director, Shozo Kaga, wanted to implement actual, story elements and RPG elements as well, such as leveling up and that type of stuff, and ultimately they came up with Fire Emblem. So Nintendo games in the early years generally did not have much of a story. They had a background generally explaining what's going on, but ultimately they didn't actually really attempt to try to introduce proper storytelling. They just wanted to put out a fun game in different varieties. But obviously, though, the first Nintendo game that actually featured a more proper story, I guess, is Mother, of course, and that obviously only released in Japan. It was a turn-based RPG, as you would expect. Obviously, the other big, turn-based RPGs at the time were Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, of course, and those were the only real story, oriented video games at the time. But either way, of course, Mother, it was an interesting and unique take. It was much quirkier, and it's more Nintendo-esque, as we would come to know, just in general design philosophies. But ultimately, though, obviously Fire Emblem obviously wanted to take its Famicom War series and combine it with a more classical type of RPG, such as Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy. But also, there was direct inspiration from a game called First Queen, stated by Shozo Kaga. But ultimately, that's where, the general context of this game, I guess, is supposed to come in. And as for the actual game story itself, well, it is relatively straightforward. It's fairly obvious that this was just meant to just kind of be an idea first and foremost, and they didn't really think about getting serious, with the games until later on. But obviously we'll quickly go over the story in case you're not super familiar. Starting with the game's manual, it gives a little backstory. Of course, there's Medius, who is a dragon, and he leads the nation of Dolar, and basically he wanted to eradicate all humans and made them want to despair, suffer, he just wanted to wipe out humans. But ultimately, though, there was a ray of hope for the humans, even though they were on their last leg, and that was Henri, who came from a land called Altea. And Henri was gifted a blade called the Falchion. It was a divine blade, and basically he took the blade to Medius and whatnot, and along with the kingdom of Arcania, they were able to put Medius down pretty much, and they eradicated the threat. But now that some time has passed, it looks like Medius has somehow found the strength to reawaken again. And ultimately, he does, still want to continue his goals of, eradicating all humans and stuff like that. And obviously, the kingdom of Altea now, which was founded by Henri, it's now led by King Cornelius. And King Cornelius, of course, leads his army out to try to take out Medius. And Medius and Dolar are now aligned with the nations of Rust and Macedon. But during King Cornelius' journey to fight Medius, he is betrayed by the kingdom of Ra, who were their allies. And so King Cornelius dies, and King Cornelius' son, who was Marth, he is forced to flee his homeland of Altea and take refuge in the little island nation of Talus. And he's also separated from the rest of his family as well. And of course, one day he hopes to, find the falchion and take Medius out once and for all. But you start in-game in Chapter 1 in Talus, and Mars on the east side of the country, and Sita comes flying in from the west side. Sita is the princess of Talus, and she informs Marth that pirates are attacking the capital. So Marth and friends, his little brigade here, along with the veteran knight Jagan, the knights Cain and Abel, the archer Gordon, and the armored knight Drog, all head, along with Sita, to the castle and fight off pirates along the way. And eventually they get to the pirate leader here, and they defeat him. But along the way, Marth can visit a village to recruit Reese, who's a priest who can heal wounds of Marth's allies and stuff. But that's cool. But after that, Marth and friends finally depart by boat from Talus to begin their journey of taking down Medius. And once they arrive in the port town of Galdra, they're greeted by Ogma and his 3 mercenary friends. And they are hired to join Marth's army in his little effort here, so that's cool. So he fights some pirates, and one of the pirates actually wants to join Marth's army, as he wants to turn a new leaf around in his life after being a pirate all this time. And a little bit further into the fight, you find Castor, who's working with the pirates so he can get gold to pay for his sick mother's medicine. But Sita can offer to give him some gold, and Castor will join the army, and this is visiting villages, or talking to people in the battlefield, or at the start of chapters. That's how you recruit people in this game. It's obviously a main facet of Fire Emblem, so but either way, they deal with the pirates there, and after that they head west and deal with some bandits in the mountains. And this is notable because here you meet Navarre, who's an especially experienced swordsman. He's a little bit intimidating, but ultimately he is willing to join Marth's army simply because he doesn't hurt women or children, and Sita is standing in Navarre's way from killing all the men in Marth's army. So Navarre is convinced to join Marth's effort, along with the thief Julian and Lena, who are trying to escape the bandits. But either way, they defeat the bandits there. And after that, they head towards Aurelis, and Aurelis is a nation in the plains, and they're an ally to Altea and Arcania. But ultimately, though, one of the Aurelis royalty, who's Hardin, along with his gang, the Wolf Guard, are in trouble, and Marth's army come just in time to save them and assist in taking back Aurelis Castle, and that's quite nice. But also there, Marth meets Nina, who is the princess of Arcania, and Nina gives Marth the Fire Emblem. The Fire Emblem is a powerful item, and to give courage and bring light back to the world, as Nina says. But regardless, that's cool for now. But either way, they have to deal with more of the enemy, so they head towards Left Candith, and there, some Macedon soldiers, who are part of the enemy, of course, they are stationed to try to take out Marth, and among them is Minerva, who is, she's a princess of Macedon, but it looks like she's working with the army against her will, simply because, someone in Macedon has held Minerva's younger sister, Maria, captive, and they promise to do bad things to her if Minerva doesn't comply. So Minerva does participate in this battle along with her subordinates, the White Wings, but ultimately, even though it looks like they're about to battle Marth and friends, they ultimately retreat from this battle, and Marth and friends deal with the rest of the Macedon forces there. But either way, they head to Port Warren, and there they also meet with the Macedon forces and recruit a few new army members and stuff and visit the town. But either way, they deal with the soldiers there. Despite Marth and friends winning very, very handily, the enemy was fast clamping down on them, so they decided their next course of action was to head by boat to the island nation of Parathi. Parathi was a small nation, but its leader was not happy that Marth and friends were trespassing on their land, and it turns out their leader is actually a Manichede. Now, Manichedes are they're basically dragons that have taken the form of humans to avoid being hunted, so to speak. But they can still use dragon stones to turn into dragons and fight, and they're very strong. And Marth has to deal with the agitated Manichede leader here, and yeah, that's okay. But either way, they regroup and head for a different point in the continent, in the mainland, so to speak. And there, they free Princess Maria, obviously from the rebel forces, and Minerva thanks Marth for freeing her and joins his army. They deal with the rest of the Macedon forces in that area. Then after that, they head up to Arcania and deal with the enemy forces near the town of Norda. And along the way, they finally get to the Arcanian palace, rescue some Arcanian soldiers, and basically free the Arcanian palace from enemy rule. So Athena is very thankful for Marth and friends, so that's nice. But of course, Marth is from Altea, and he needs to go back and rescue his people as well, of course. Either way, though, after a bit of rest, they head west and deal with the wooden cavalry of the enemy nation of Grust. And yeah, that's cool. But either way, along the way, Marth deals with Gra. Basically, Gra was the nation that betrayed Marth's father in Altea. And King Jiol was the one who put the actions into place. So Marth and friends have a strong vendetta against King Jiol, and they eventually do defeat him, and yeah, that's very cool. But either way, though, Marth and friends, they also realize they need to find the falchion, and the falchion was supposed to be in Gra, since King Jiol killed Marth's father who had the falchion, so they wonder where it could be, and they have a lead that potentially Garnef could have it. And Garnef resides in the city of Gadain, the magical city. And there, Garnef, being a very strong sorcerer, has complete domain over the city. And Marth and friends go up and try to fight him, and they can't do anything to him because of his dark magic tome called I'm Hulu. And yeah, but Garnef grows bored of Marth and friends struggling and decides to teleport away and take his business elsewhere. But Marth and friends still deal with some of the enemy forces that happen to be occupying Gadain, but yeah, they obviously don't find the falchion there, so Marth, after realizing this, swiftly heads back to Altea and tries to take it back. And they are relatively successful, even though it's a long and arduous journey. And eventually they do get to the castle and deal with the enemy forces inside Altea Castle. Yeah. And the person leading the forces inside the castle is also a Manichede, so that's very cool, but either way. But yeah, Marth defeats him, and yeah, they take back the castle, and yeah, that's really cool. But either way, Marth, well, the enemy nations are still aggressive, and Marth can't just flitter about and do whatever his wily pleases. He does have to do something. So a couple chapters ago, we received a hologram from Godo, who is the arch-sage of the continent, and basically Godo told Marth that Garnef's tome, the I'm Hulu, cannot be undone unless you have the Starlight tome, which you need the Star Sphere and the Light Sphere in order to make, and those are currently in the Fane of Raman, and yeah, that's pretty important, because Garnef will just be a massive roadblock if you can't deal with him. So obviously Marth still has to launch a counterattack on Dolar, and Dolar is the biggest threat here. But obviously Marth has to take out their allies first, as they can also flank Marth's army when they're attacking Dolar. So either way, Marth's first action is to head to the Fane of Raman, and there you deal with some Grustian forces, and that's cool. But either way, they finally get to the Fane of Raman, and inside is Tiki, who, of course, Banty mentioned earlier, part of the Divine Dragon clan. You have to deal with enemy forces inside, and inside you also do find the Star Sphere and the Light Sphere. of course. But either way, Bantu has to talk to Tiki to get her out of her trance, because she was apparently brainwashed by Garneth to do the enemy's bidding. And eventually Tiki realizes her guardian, who was Bantu, and snaps out of it and gets out of the way off the throne, and Mars seizes the throne, and Tiki joins the army. And yeah, she's quite young. Even though she's technically hundreds of years old, in dragon years she's still pretty much a child, and she acts very, very, well, seemingly much like a child, at least. But regardless though, yeah, she's nice to have around, she's very strong. Either way, next they have to go to Grust and deal with the rest of their forces, who are still aggressive, I guess. But regardless, Camus, the famous general of Grust, is very, very strong, and he also wields the legendary weapon Gradivus, which can be chucked at enemies or hit them up close. But either way, defeat him, and yeah, that is unfortunate for one person in particular, Nina. Nina apparently was saved by Camus back when she was pretty much a hostage, and yeah, they wanted to do some terrible things to her. Dolar, that is. Camus actually did technically go against the wishes of his country and sort of betrayed them, but ultimately he didn't get punished for it. Either way though, Marth and friends defeated Camus here, and Nina's a little bit sad, but regardless though, they do have to continue on. So next is Macedon, and Macedon is led by the new leader, King Macallus, and Macallus is relatively ruthless, and he's also very strong, and he's also the brother of Minerva and Maria, so there's a little bit of family drama there. But either way, they take him out, and it's one less enemy going. But first though, Marth and friends, before they head to Dolar, they want to take care of Garneth, and apparently, according to Godo, again, Garneth is hiding out in the ancient city of Thebes. So Godo teleports Marth and friends up to Thebes, and yeah, they try to deal with him once and for all. But yeah, Godo would create the Starlight Tome, and you can give that to one of your mages, and hopefully they can take him out. You don't actually have to kill Garneth, but he will be a significant roadblock if you do not kill him. So either way, defeat, get rid of the enemy forces there, and also retrieve the falchion, which is left of there. And then you can head back to Dolar and deal with the enemy Manichete forces that are on the outside of the castle. And then eventually, once you reach inside the castle, there's a bunch of different various soldiers, human soldiers as well as Manichetes, and you have to deal with most of them. But either way though, you eventually get to Medius, the big bad of this game, and yeah, hopefully you have the means to defeat him. You should, at least, but he's still a tough fight, of course, and he will eventually go down. And yeah, he curses all humans and stuff, saying, like, so long as humans have greed in their heart or something, that he will always return. And that's the end of the story, pretty much. And after that, Marth and Sita get engaged, and yeah, and everyone has their little character endings, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So, as for the game itself, well,